Hello and welcome to Sheila Lives Out Loud. My name is Sheila Moniga and I'm so grateful and glad you found this channel. Please click subscribe and hit notifications so you never miss an episode. And in this week, we are uploading conversations with Kenyans who've been through the COVID-19 journey. It's all about survivors describing their experiences for you so that you understand how real the coronavirus is. It is here, it is within our borders. Last week, Dr. Simon Kigondu from the Kenya Medical Association let us know that we are at the stage of widespread community transmission. It's no longer a question of if you'll come into contact with the coronavirus, it's a matter of when. And are you prepared? Do you have the right information? Do you understand what COVID-19 is all about? It is my hope that in this episode, these experiences from survivors will help you take your responsibility and work on it diligently, because I depend on you and you depend on me. It is up to us to take care of each other to ensure that we all have a good chance of making it through. We begin with Aurelia's journey. Hi, Aurelia. How are you?
I'm fine.
Thank you so much for making the time to speak with me. I'm truly grateful that you've made the time.
Okay.
Now, I'd like us to jump straight into it. When we hear about COVID and the coronavirus, everybody is walking around saying it's a joke or it's only for old people. I'm looking at you and you are Nairobi.
Well, it's not for the
Very
old.
young. No, it's not. And I'd like to just talk about your experience. I remember putting this out on my social media to find out about people who've experienced it, walked that journey. Tell me, how old are you, if I may ask?
Well, I'm very old. I just turned 30 last month.
Right.
Yeah.
You're still Nairobi in my books, honey. Let's talk about what made you get that COVID test in the first place. What happened?
We had contact tracing at my place of work.
Yeah.
And although I'd not come into contact with that particular person, I thought I had traveled to Nairobi a week before. So I felt it was more of a voluntary test. So I did the test because they came contact tracing, but also
Right.
because I knew I had traveled. So I thought it was necessary to just take the test, although I did not have any symptoms at that time. So yeah,
Okay.
it was because of that.
All right. You say you traveled to Nairobi. Where had you come from?
I work in Nyandarua County in some place called Olkalau. That's our headquarters. So I had traveled to Nairobi for over a weekend. And when I got back to Nyandarua, it's when we had that issue of our colleagues' parents having gotten infected. So we got tested. We had to get tested. Everybody who had come into contact with him had to get tested. But it was more of, I knew, okay, fine, I've not gotten into contact with this person, but I have been to Nairobi. So, well, I took the test and the results came 4 days later. And yes, that was the worst news ever that, I did not think, it never ever occurred to me that I would have the virus, because I'd taken all the necessary precautions. I had always been in a mask since even before the first COVID case was announced here in Kenya. I had been in a mask because I'd traveled to India in February, and that is when those issues started. Those cases started were recorded first around that time. So I was always in a mask. So being told I had COVID, it was unbelievable, and the fact that I didn't have any symptoms.
Okay. When you found out that you were COVID, of course, you had to tell your family about it. How did they take that news?
Oh, my family was part of them were like, no, that's a lie. Those are politics. There is nothing like it. I think they were just in denial. Well, the rest were like, no, take this positively. We have seen people get sick and overcome it. So yeah, just be strong and you will be just fine. But like my mom, she was like, no, you do not have COVID. I don't believe you have COVID. But yeah, they still encouraged me despite everything. They told me I had to be strong, and that is what I did, because I was also afraid if I'm too afraid of the virus, I might have my pressure going up and such things. So they were very
Okay.
supportive.
So in your email, you told me that you tested positive, but you were asymptomatic. So help somebody who is in the dark about what asymptomatic means understand better.
Okay, asymptomatic, we've all had of the various symptoms that COVID patients are likely to exhibit, like, the sore throat and the loss of taste, smell, I did not have any of that. Till date, I cannot remember a day this year that I had a sore throat. I did not lose my taste. I did not have any kind of pains in my body. So I was completely asymptomatic. It's just the results that said I was positive. And that happened. Okay, I also met two other I was taken to isolation. So the other two cases that I met there also were asymptomatic. So none of us showed, we did not have any headaches. In fact, I can't, when you ask me what is corona, I'll tell you I can't tell you what it is, because I did not have any sort of problems.
Okay, all right. Speaking of isolation, what was that experience like?
Well, I have heard of, people going to cells, to jail. I can equate that to, because you are in a space where you're out of your comfort zone, you're away from your house, where you just do your things the way you want them done. So you're taken to a place outside in the counties. I don't know about Nairobi, but in the counties had been asked to prepare isolation centers, in readiness for any COVID numbers rising. So Nyandarua being, it was also the county had also prepared a place. But the worst thing was that the isolation center we were taken to, it's in one of the coldest places in Nyandarua. That was the worst thing about being in that place, because there was fog and mist throughout. Um, you're away from family. I had people visiting, but you're separated by a glass wall. So
Yeah.
it was also not the best. You feel like, you're in jail, you can't do anything. But we survived. It was a place where when we got there was no water, the basic amenities there. In fact, from my own experience there, the entire county got to realize that, the county was not ready for COVID patients, because there was no water in that facility, there was no electricity, there were beds for patients, there were mattresses, but there were no beddings. We had a change of, they gave us those pajamas, those hospital clothes. We only had a change of those clothes once in 2 weeks. Like in the entire 10 to 14 days I stayed there, we only had a change of clothes once.
Oh, no.
Well, about food, food was in plenty. In Yandara, food is in plenty, so we had no issue of food. But in terms of even preparation for the medics, they got the training, how to handle us, how to deal with us. They were trained while we were at the center.
Oh dear. So
So,
you were their
and
test cases, really, which was most unfortunate.
yes, but so they would share with us. They would tell us, we do not know how to handle you people. In fact, the first days they would put our food somewhere very far from us, and they would literally run away so that
Oh,
we can would then now go to pick the food, and then they close the doors. But now
great.
later they were supplied with the protective equipment, and they would bring the food to us. So, but emotionally, now that I did not have any symptoms, at least there was that positive
Yeah.
side. But I was emotionally disturbed, because every moment I would still think that maybe tomorrow is when the symptoms will just flare up, and I will start having chest pains. And then when I look at the facilities we have in our county,
Yeah.
there were stocks of, there's an ICU facility, we have the medicines, we have everything, but actually there was nothing. So I was always afraid, if today I have the chest pains, where will I go to? Do we have ventilators? We do not have an ICU bed, even a single bed. So that was my worry. And I was also worried about the people I had come into contact with. As much as I had called them the day I got the news, I called everyone I had come into contact with for the last 1 week. I told them, go get tested. I just received my results. So I was also afraid of, before they got their results, what if anybody got infected and now they will kind of blame me for whatever happened to
being
them.
positive as
So
well.
I could only just wait for the 14-day period to get over, and then they were to conduct a second test for us, which turned negative, luckily. So we did not have to overstay at the isolation center. Yeah.
Right. Looking back at your experience and hearing Kenyans say there's no such thing as coronavirus, what would you like to say to people who think like that?
Corona is real. As much as I was asymptomatic, I have met people. At least I got to share with even friends, because right now at least we know somebody who has corona now, who has had corona. So I have come into contact. I've now gotten to know people who had an actually different experience from me, because for them it was much worse. They had all those symptoms. Some of them, I even have friends and colleagues who have even been in under oxygen. So I know people who have really been affected by the virus. So we should not let our guard down. Let people wear their masks. Try to be as careful. Avoid those gatherings. Have your sanitizers. Wash your hands. Yes, it's there, and you don't have to experience it to know that it's there.
That was Aurelia describing her COVID 19 journey, being asymptomatic, being 30, but still going through the mental anguish of being confirmed positive and wondering what would happen next. We move on in this episode with yet another conversation with yet another COVID 19 survivor. Hello, Annie. Thank you so much for making the time to speak with me. It's such a pleasure to be able to see you and to hear from you and to walk this COVID 19 journey with you. As we begin, I'd like us to know where it started for you. How did you know that maybe perhaps you need to go and get tested?
Okay, mine was a bit weird, I must say, because I think it started in a very funny way. It is, I think I've been having it for some time before I even started getting sick. Because when it started, I remember when I started feeling something funny, I was peace. And that day, it's this day that is normally very busy in my Thursdays, because we do a lot of mediations in the office, and I was alone in office. So that day, by evening, I was feeling very tired. I was telling our secretary that I feel like, yani, I quote, nilikuwa namwambia nasikia kama mtu mwenye amekimbizwa na wezi wakamtandika vizuri, nao wamekuachilia, you are not even able to walk. Because I was feeling tired, my feet are tired, my head is tired, and my head is heavy like a balloon. And now you're inside that balloon. So that day I came back to the house. Of course, I realized I really tried to relax. And then on Friday, I woke up feeling even worse. On Friday, I woke up with a headache and I was feeling a bit dizzy. So that day I did not go to work. I stayed indoors. I stayed in the house. Then on Saturday, now I started feeling something like homa and some cough. Normally, me, I'm that person who doesn't get flu. So, I started associating it now with a previous weekend that I had traveled to Meru via Nanyuki. So I started, maybe I had used a lot of AC in the vehicle. So I started now imagining it's because of this AC, because I'm not used to it. So I kept on assuming, pushing this to the other, giving myself, of course, excuses, the African way, the way we do it here in Kenya. And then after some time, still in the house now, the following week, on Monday, still I did not go to work, because now I was feeling my head was really heavy. I started coughing. the headache had now progressed to some other level, and then the flu was still there.
Yeah.
So I first bought some Puritans because I still believed that this is Homa, it will just go. So Piriton did not work. Then on the third day, I bought the Flugon. I took Flugon for like 2 days. Then I felt no, it became worse. On Friday, I realized that I cannot smell even onions when I'm frying food in my house. I can't even smell those onions, the onions, I mean. And then when I cook, I realized food is also tasteless. I do a drink, it's tasteless. Then now my chest is behaving funny. There is some noise in my chest. On Saturday, I called a friend of mine to drive me to hospital because I felt that I was feeling very weak. And even before then, I had started really sweating at night and having hallucinations.
Oh dear.
I remember there's a night like 3 times. I was really sweating ile una sweat hata slippers unateleza kwa slippers. So I go shower, I go back to bed, I sleep. I start having hallucinations. And it's like malaria. You have so many dreams within 1 hour. And then you keep on you're having those, yani unakaa ukistuka ile, you cannot sleep well. And then within the same week, I also realized that I don't know if I used to sleepwalk, because sometimes I could sleep in my bedroom only to wake up in the morning and find myself on the couch. Other times I find myself in my son's bedroom because he's not around. Other times I could find myself in the I went to pee and I did not go back to bed. I overslept there. So on that Saturday, I called my friend. I told her now to drive me because I felt that I was not fit to drive. I was very weak, very, very weak, because again, I wasn't feeding. There was no appetite at all. I was not feeding on anything, nothing, for that 1 week. So when I went to the hospital, they treated me for pneumonia. They told me that I have very serious pneumonia. So they treated me for pneumonia. I requested them to test me for COVID because I just looked around and told the doctor, this the way I'm feeling, this pneumonia is, unless if there is a new version of pneumonia, because the way I'm feeling is not, there's something weird about this pneumonia.
Yeah.
Because I have had pneumonia some other times back in 2017, and this is not how I felt. So they told me they are not testing for COVID, but they can cover me for it. They will treat pneumonia, then they will give me multivitamins. They prescribed some multivitamins for me to go and buy over the counter. So I took the antibiotics they gave me and the painkillers. Then I bought the multivitamins along the way. I came back home. I continued taking these drugs. Still nothing, no change, not even an inch. In fact, things got worse. So 1 more week, I was in the house again. I'm alone in the house. I did not know. I did not used to know the difference between the day now and night, because you're sleeping during the day, you're sleeping during the night. You are not able to walk even from bedroom to the couch. You try to convince yourself to watch something on the telly, you cannot. I told myself no. And then on the following week, now on Thursday at night, I remember they became now very worse. Okay, my dad used to call me every day and he insisted you have to go back to hospital. So that on a Thursday night, I felt something funny. My chest was heavy. There was, I don't know how to call that feeling, because unasikia kujikuna huko kwa chest huko ndani. And then the thought of you're about to cough makes you feel like you start preparing yourself. You feel like you should cry fast because the cough is very, very painful. It reached a point that night, you cough, unajikojolea, because it's very painful. And then there is a lot of noise in the chest, inside the chest now. It's like povu. You know, povu hii sabuni. Ama unasikia ni kama ni ant hill, and then the ants are there. They are crowded, they are eating, and they are making noise in your chest. So that night, I now started feeling like even breathing is a problem.
Yeah.
And you know, at that point, you're really trying to convince yourself that no, this is not, I'm not unable to breathe, because you also don't want it to be COVID. You don't want to think inside that line, eh?
Yeah.
So you sleep, unalala kwa tumbo, unalala kwa mgongo, you turn the other side, unaenda pande ya miguu, you use this pillow, you feel this is the problem, you change the pillows. I move from my bed to my son's bed. I move from there now to the couch. I tell myself it is positioning is the problem. But no, you can't breathe. I can't breathe. And then at some point, the same night now, I felt there is that feeling now. The headache is there, the dizziness, the bed itself is going round. You feel like you're in a swing. So the pain became too much. At around 5 in the morning, I called a friend of mine who is a priest. We used to school with him. And I told him, the way I'm feeling, Father, you need to visit me because I now need to be released. I feel, I can smell death. I could smell it. I could feel that all is not well, and I think I'm about to die. So he told me, Annisiah, I'm not coming to do anything. Instead, I'll pray. And then you will wake up and go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So when I woke up in the morning, I called my sister. I also called my mom. I told them how I feel. I have COVID. I haven't tested for it, but if there is that COVID, I have it. If it is not COVID, then there is a new disease in town, and it is worse than COVID. That is what I told them. So of course they are really making noise. No, stop associating with yourself with that thing. But I tell them, kama kunayo, this is it now. I have it. So of course they refuse, and then they insist you just go to hospital.
Yeah.
So at around 10, I leave my bed again. I come to the sitting room. Now I open my door. I struggle to open the door because I could not walk. That time I cannot touch anything. I cannot see anything. Dizziness. I feel my head is full in the house, and I'm inside that head. So it's like a balloon, and I'm inside that balloon. So I struggle to open my door, and then immediately after opening the door, I collapse. I cannot breathe. I cannot talk. But fortunately, I'm holding my phone. I really struggled. I struggled for some time. And then suddenly I was able to at least press the phone anywhere. And so when I pressed, of course, it called somebody that I had talked to a few days ago.
Yeah.
And then somebody spoke. He could hear. He heard that I'm not okay. So he called, because he knew I was sick, he called somebody, a neighbor now.
Yeah.
Because I live within an institution, staff quarters. So he called a neighbor who came now and found me on the floor. And that is how they took me to hospital.
Yeah.
I was taken to my facility, the one that I've chosen for the NHIF civil servant scheme.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the same facility where I was treated for pneumonia. And then they sent me to the casualty. I stayed there on a wheelchair for almost an hour. The doctors were busy with an emergency. I'm there. I can't breathe. I can't do anything. I'm sweating. I'm just feeling I'm about to go. So after like an hour, they placed me on some bed there.
Yeah.
And then they cover me with a blanket. They take my temperatures, and the BP was very, very high. The temperature, I believe it was over 40. The operations manager says, they can. I need to be admitted, but they cannot admit me in their facility. So I asked them why. They tell me their facility, they don't want to risk my signs to like I have COVID. Then I ask them, now where do I go, because this is my facility? They tell me you have to look for another hospital. So they refuse completely.
How long did you spend in the hospital? How many days?
I spent around 7 days in the hospital.
And did they put you consistently on oxygen throughout?
I was on oxygen throughout day and night. Yeah, because even when I was leaving the other facility, they had taken my oxygen. When they were taking the BP, they also did this test for oxygen circulation, and it was very low. Yeah, when I was getting admitted at KU, my oxygen circulation was 80, and sometimes going below 80 to 70, 76, 77 up.
Okay, and what is usually the normal one for you?
The normal one is supposed to be always above 95.
Okay, so that was quite low. Now, looking at your recovery, there's a lady who I know, she has to blow into, this little tube so that she can work her lungs. And part of the work she also has to do is to blow balloons. Part of your therapy to recover, what does that involve now?
Shockingly, when I was leaving hospital, my oxygen circulation had gone up to 97. So, and during my time of discharge, I had fully recovered. I had nothing, no pain, no nothing. So I did not leave that hospital with a single pill, no medicine, no nothing. My doctor just told me to come, isolate myself for 14 days, and keep on taking hot fluids and concoction. This ginger, tungu saumu, lemon, and that kind of mixture throughout. So I've been on these things for this is the 7th day now.
Yeah, okay.
No medicine.
Looking at the people who were around you, contact tracing, have efforts been made into checking on their status? Are they okay? Did any of them test positive?
Yeah. In fact, when my results were out, no, you see now that place where they charged me 10,000, even today I've never gotten the results up to date. I've never gotten the results up to date from that facility. I've never. So you see, when I went to KU, they tested me again. And then now the Ministry of Health called me now to tell me the results are out. I'll get them through my doctor at the KU. So the doctor gave me the results, and that is now how I was taken to the isolation wards.
Okay.
And that's why I continued with medication from the isolation ward now. They asked me about the contacts, people that have been close to me during that time, that week when I was in the house, and more so those that took me to hospital. I gave the contacts, and they were all traced, and they were tested. The results, I think, are out by today. Yeah, even this morning, these people visited the house, the guys from the Ministry of Health, those that are doing community-based follow-up.
So there is follow-up and there is contact tracing still in effect.
Yeah.
For people who are walking around saying COVID is a joke, what would you like to say to them?
I wish I could be able to address the whole world seated somewhere. I think I used to be one of them before. I used to have that chorus of, do you know somebody, who is positive? I would really want to tell people this. COVID is there, very much real. It is very painful. It is like a monster. It's like devil himself. Because this thing, I think, inakuchukua inakupeleka ka dunia kengine hapo peke yako. Whatever it does to you there, it's only you and your God who knows what happens there. So I would really want to tell people, please, 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 don't try to argue with the government. Don't even think of the COVID-19 millionaires or billionaires, whatever is happening to money or whatever it is going or whatever it is happening. The thing is that COVID is there. It is so real. Na ikikushika, you are on your own. There's no government there with you. In those pains, there's no government. So I would really want to tell people to take extra care. In as much as sijui hata mimi nilitoa wapi, because I'm that person who has been very, very careful. I'm known. Kubeba sanitizer kila mahali, mask everywhere. I don't know where I got it from, but it's good for us to do our part so that God can do the rest. You know, hata Mungu I think anaangalia. This guy amejaribu sana, ameng'ang'ana kujikinga. So nitamsaidia. I think that is how it is working. So it's good for you to do your best, then God will do his part, because I've always been very careful, but all the same it caught up with me. I don't know where and how, but it is there, it is real, and it is very expensive, because again, those bills plus the oxygen, and most of the insurance covers are not doing that. And if they do, it is real.
Paying for something you have been breathing all your life.
Really.
One day you get a bill for this thing that you've been breathing for free.
Exactly. You pay the bills. And again, that oxygen is also a struggle. You see, when you go to such facilities, almost everybody else there is struggling for this oxygen. So it reaches that point where hata usiku nalala umeshikilia yako. You fear that mtu atakuja chomoya aweke mwingine. So you can imagine, you're really competing for this oxygen that you have always been breathing freely. It's a real struggle.
Annisiah, thank you so much for speaking with me. I am so grateful. Thank you for sharing your experience. I wish you well. Pumzika, you know how to find me. I appreciate you, and I'm so happy that you have been able to share and inspire all of us. Thank you so much. I'm sending you all my love and all my hugs. Asante sana.